Welcome back. This is the second hour of Lake County Magazine here on KPFC, your local community radio station. And I'm turning your mics down so you can talk to each other without going over the air. So we want to welcome John Brosnan, candidate for District 3, to the show. Hey, John, how you doing?
Good morning, Terry. I'm doing good.
Can you tip your mic down just a little bit?
How's that?
Hopefully it'll be
and
better.
If you turn the
How
mics
about
up
that?
now.
Yeah, I can't hear me at all.
Okay, there you
go.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes. Well, they have the mic switch around. That should be mic 3, and it's actually mic 4. Shame.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
We can hear you.
I can't hear me.
I can hear you.
That's probably best.
Okay. Well, notice we do these things on purpose. We want to make the interview a very light, fun, eventful conversation.
It's an adventure
and not
that
a
you shouldn't
boring,
be-
straight question
That's
and
right.
answer thing. So have fun, okay?
I'll try.
Thank you.
Don't be nervous.
Nervous? Okay. So, you want to just get into it?
Yeah, I want you to get into it. I know you're guiding this
I'm always the guide. I know. It's my
this
spirit.
venture. I just throw my 2 cents in when it's appropriate.
Fair enough. Okay, we have Mr. John Brosnan. How are you, sir?
Okay.
All right. By the way, folks, just for full disclosure, Mr. Brosnan and I have known each other now for just about a year, and I consider him a friend, so I want to disclose that up front, that we do have a friendship. But politics is politics.
That's right.
And so we're going to get into it. So I have some basic questions that I'm asking all of the candidates. Doesn't matter what they're running for, but all the candidates. So I'm going to start off with the basic ones, which I asked Mr. Steele off the air, which I have to provide those answers to later on. But the first question is, have you received any endorsements from anybody?
No,
Are you actually seeking endorsements from anybody?
not really. I am going on interviews when I'm asked to go on interviews and answering the questions to the best of my ability.
Right, but you're not out there soliciting, are you?
No.
No, I didn't think so. You don't strike the type. You're too straightforward, I think. Cool. Okay. And the next question is, how are you raising campaign funds?
Well, I haven't started to raise campaign funds yet, but I do have some people interested in supporting my efforts in running for supervisor, District 3 in Lake County. And so I'm approaching those people, and
Okay.
hopefully I'll raise enough money to get a sign or two.
Excellent. So, but you're right now, based on my limited knowledge, you don't actually have any kickoff parties or any campaign fundraising parties scheduled or anything like that, do you?
No.
Okay. Cool.
Do you plan on it? Do you plan on it?
I don't have a campaign manager. I don't have a team. I have people that support me, and my girlfriend has a beauty salon shop, and she says that there's people that want to support me, and I'm just really trying to look at the overall picture here. I came here, about 8-10 years ago, and I was always talking about what's going on here, how it's going on. It became intuitively obvious to me that there was a certain type of pulse or a certain type of environment here, both politically and agriculturally and in every way. And I used to always comment on it, and people used to always tell me, look, why don't you get involved in politics? And I never really took it serious, but when Denise Rushing threw her towel in, I decided that, well, maybe this was an opportunity to move forward.
Well, at the beginning of the show today, I actually made a comment, which I don't know if it's appropriate or not, but I made it anyway, that you were a different type of candidate. I didn't mean that politically in your mission or what you're trying to accomplish, but just your approach to this election. Mm-hmm. You're not campaigning per se out there. You're not having fundraising parties. You're not on every single radio show and every media opportunity out there. You are just doing your own thing.
I am. And I guess if you were going to step back and analyze it, which I really haven't, but now that you mentioned it, I've been supporting other people's campaigns.
Let's not go down that road. That may not be very helpful.
Well, but I do that in a way because I believe that, politics is politics, and there's a candidate that's constantly talking about the devil in the details, et cetera, et cetera. So for me, it's like, politics has come to a point where there's this two-party system, a third party and a fourth party and a fifth party have been trying to merge into this system to try to create some sort of balance. But what I have found is that when the party system, the individual loses the individual's voice. And the irony is that at the end of the day, after everything is said and done, somebody in these party line affiliations who graduate up in the classes end up as senators, as congressmen, as presidents, and then all the people and the party members complain about who's in the office, whether they're Republican or Democrat, but those people of the party move them up in this escalating scale to get there. And I think that's because people have lost their sense of individual vote. And I think that that's basically what's going on, not only locally, but with the nation, that people have lost their voice. And that's what I don't want to lose, is my voice.
John, I wanted to find out what you have a voice. Obviously, I mean, you've been very good about letting your opinions be known at supervisor meetings and other public gatherings. So when you found out that Denise wasn't going to run again, what was your main motivation for putting yourself on the line? Because any candidate in Lake County puts themselves subject to a massive amount of abuse and deflection, discreditation, all kinds of negative aspects of a campaign. That hasn't happened so much in the District 3 race, but those people that support a certain side of the political thinking here in the county just naturally gravitate to attack those who they may have thoughts that are different. So what made you really want to put yourself out on the line for the people of Lake County?
Well, first of all, I think to answer that question specifically, I would have to look back at what type of personality I am and what I've done since I've been here. And I don't think that I've stood still long enough to consider anybody's opinion of me as being detrimental. I mean, I'm pretty straightforward, pretty honest. I'm pretty open book. I don't really conceal or hide anything, so that anytime anybody brings anything up that's derogatory about me, like, I'm on Facebook, and there's stuff on Facebook, and there's the blog, which I never ever visit, but I hear a lot about. And so I guess in answering your question is, like, anybody could take a shot at me, and they have a right to do so, but I always remember taking a shot back, it doesn't accomplish anything, and that's basically my politics. Why go down that road of trying to undermine and discredit somebody when their actions and who they are pretty much explains it already? I don't need to attack anybody, and if someone feels the need to attack me, then I don't really pay too much attention. I'm pretty much transparent, I guess is the word they're using today. People talk about transparency.
Yes, that's the new key word in politics.
So I don't really have much to hide, basically. I don't have anything to hide, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Did that answer your question? I don't know if I did.
I'd really like to know how you feel like you're going to be able to impact the people of this county. What makes you stand out above the other candidates, since there are so many?
Well, that's another good question, right? I would say that what differentiates me, I don't know if it makes me stand out, but what differentiates me from the other candidates is I believe that there's an issue that really hasn't been addressed here in terms of creating an eco-tourist or an agri-tourist or a tourist destination spot, which is what everybody wants this to become again, which is good for the economy and good for the community. And there's an issue that I don't think that's really been fully addressed, and that is the issue of homelessness, the issue of drug and alcohol addictions, the issue of poverty level living lifestyle that creates and contributes to crime. And so I think that that's really a big issue, as big as the lake, as big as the watershed, as big as agriculture, as big as the diversity of agriculture. This really needs to be a balanced campaign. And I've always believed that win or lose, the idea is, you hear everybody saying, do you think you can win? Do you think you can win? And it's like, well, everybody wants to be a winner, right? I mean, who wants to be a loser? Nobody wants to be a loser, but the facts are there can only be one winner. So that means there's a whole lot of what they have called losers out there, right? So what I'm trying to say is that we're not a loser. We're all here trying to I am here trying to put my best foot forward in contributing, representing the lost voices, the lost people here, because the ag people have a voice, they have lobbyists, they have what they have. The lake has their voices. Everybody has a voice here, but 40%, and there's a lot of people, 30 to 40%, that don't have any representation all around this lake, and including District 3. So I think that if we can shine a light on that area, those issues, I think it would really, really help move Lake County forward in the 21st century to creating this agricultural destination spot that everybody really wants. I don't know if that answers your question, but
that sounds good to me. No, seriously,
Okay.
I think you did.
That was great, thank you.
Okay. On that note, we'll get into some of the issues that everyone obviously wants to hear about. It's been readdressed multiple times on all the different shows, but I still think you're a little bit different than the other candidates. I just do. That's a personal opinion, folks. A lot of candidates, and I'm just speaking in general terms now, not individuals here, like to state what they're going to do for the county or for your district. They come across like they know everything about all the subjects. And I don't know about you, but I don't know dilly squat about most of the subjects personally. I just don't have that expertise. What I do know, I think I know pretty well. So my question to you is, what do you feel, and this sounds like a silly question, but what are your strengths? What do you feel are the issues that you think you can absolutely do something about based on your experience and knowledge?
Okay. My strengths, and I believe that the issues at hand here in the lake, I believe first a supervisor is a representative, okay? Representing a district, which means representing a group of people, but keeping in mind the 5 districts and the county as a whole. I believe that as a supervisor, you have an administration. That administration is there to help guide and create the environment we have here socially, economically, in our budget to move forward with all the districts. So as a supervisor, I would be more inclined to lean towards getting advice, seeking advice, using the agencies that are already up and on board, as opposed to me pretending that I am the missing ingredient that you all need to make this thing work. I think that if I am a missing ingredient, the ingredient that I bring to the table, I think, is acknowledging and recognizing the current administration, the current players, for the value and the contributions that they've already made working towards cleaning this lake up, working towards creating a more unified district and getting things moving down the road. So I would think utilizing the sources, the resources that are here is really a big part of being a supervisor and a representative.
Okay, so you're saying that you believe that your administrative skills and your listening skills will give you an opportunity of actually providing, getting the necessary input from other experts.
Yeah, I believe that's probably the best way to go about it, because I don't think any one person can be the answer.
Well, without sounding a cliche, is a good leader surrounds himself with better people. So, is that what you're saying? I'm not trying to put words. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but
I think you have to work in conjunction with other people if you want to create a society. You can't work alone. You have to work together.
All right. Speaking of working together, what is your approach, or how do you think you can work with the current county supervisors that are going to be staying in office until their election comes up in another couple of years? I mean, there's some very distinct personalities on the board right now.
Yes, there are.
And I'm not saying that in a negative or positive way. They are very distinct personalities, and some can be extremely stubborn at times on certain issues. Some have their own goals to achieve as supervisors, hopefully for the good of the public. So how do you feel you can work with those type of personalities?
Well, obviously, it'll be dependent upon whether they want to be able to work with me, right? I mean, I'm willing to work with anybody. I know to a degree. I've interacted to a degree with the supervisors here, not extensively, but enough to know their personality types and enough to know their positions on certain issues, and enough to know that my position is not to try to persuade anybody into anything except to be able to provide information, and then maybe with that information, with my perspective, be able to maybe shed some light or a different perspective so that they might be able to recognize that certain doors should not be slammed shut, and an open-minded policy probably might be the best way to move forward, to get us off this rut we're in. I mean, this county, I've only been here 10 years, but this county seems to go one step forward, 2 back, 3 steps forward, 2 back. I mean, eventually we're a foot forward when we could be a lot more forward, more, I guess, not to use the word, but to use it anyway, progressively, to move progressively forward. I mean, to be a progressive liberal or whatever you want to call it, well, it means to progressively move forward. I mean, if you can't move forward, you're not going to be able to withstand the current climate, the political climate that's happening nationwide. We're kind of in a stuck mode here. We just can't seem to shed some old ideas that really haven't benefited the county. And so I think that there's some old ideas in play here. And one of them, I think, is the fear syndrome of that we have to hold on to our position, our old ideas, so that we don't lose focus. And I think that that's kind of an operational tool that doesn't really work effectively when you really we're considering that we have a whole entire community and a group of people that have to be represented here.
Do you think there's a fear of success here? A fear of change?
I think there's a fear of loss of control. I think there's a control issue here, trying to control the environment. Nobody wants to talk about cannabis. It's kind of a very off the subject topic, but that's kind of how I got my first involvement here, showing up at the supervisor's office by representing a group a couple of years ago. And how I ended up in that position is another story entirely. But I believe that there's certain ideas, like for this ordinance they have now. I don't believe that the ordinance, and I told this to the supervisors at the fairground meeting, is that I'm in support of an ordinance, and I am hugely in favor of controlling this cannabis thing that's been happening here. But the ordinance that they have in place, I don't believe will give them the desired results that they're looking for. And I really am for creating an environment here at all industries, all agricultural industries, which even though it's not recognized as an agricultural formally, I believe it's a crop that will bring prodigious results in 2016, when I believe that they're going to probably make it legal. And so I think that that's an issue that we need to look at and make it an issue that's fair and impartial and provides the best care for everybody. Sorry, I didn't mean to bring that up.
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
But now that you have the current ordinance that's going to be on the ballot in June, I'm assuming that you're not in favor of that ordinance, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Only because, and I'm not in favor of it because I do not believe it will assist the current administration, the current sheriff's department, law enforcement.
Right.
I don't really think it's overall meant to really take into consideration of the results that we're trying to get.
Right, and it's not a sustainable ordinance
I
either.
don't
There's
believe
no
so.
way for them to pay for what they want to do.
Right.
Built into the ordinance. Now, we heard a rumor that there actually is a draft of the next ordinance that could be put on the November ballot.
I got a copy in the email the other night.
Okay, would you like to give us some of the high points of it?
Well, actually, I just got it last night. I didn't open it up till this morning, before I got here, and I just browsed through it real quickly. But it has provisions in there for the funds to monitor the growth element, and so it wouldn't be an economic strain on the current administration here. So it talks about plant count, but it's not really in stone yet. You have to remember this is just a matrix, and it's not really the initiative or ordinance that's going to go before the November ballot. But I can tell you that it's you want the plant count or what? What do you want first? How do you want me to approach this?
I just want to tell people what's different between what they could be voting on in June and what could be presented in November.
Okay. Well, what they're voting on in June, do you want to give them an idea of what they?
Yeah, right now it's 0 plants in any community growth area. That's areas that are designated by the county to be populated areas in the near future. And I believe that is pretty extensive areas. And they say 0 plants within any of those areas. They say up to 6 plants anywhere of an acre of land or more outside of community growth areas.
Ag land.
Well, no, the 20 plants is exclusively on ag land, but I believe with RR they can also do the 6 plants to the 20 up to 20 acres. But I've heard conflicting reports on that, so perhaps someone can clarify. But in addition, the sheriff department would have the right to enter anybody's home without a warrant on the second warning after they've been given a warning by code enforcement. Sheriffs can come back to inspect. That means going in your home to check for your indoor count, which is limited to 10 by 10 space or 100 square feet. Is all they're allowing with one light at, I think, 1,200 watts. And I'm just pulling this off the top of my head, so that's some of the main points that I know about.
I think the main point is that those
And
who are
there's
trying
no-
to grow their own medicine are basically going to be unable to do so.
Exactly. The small mom and pop people are eliminated completely from growing in their backyards.
Yeah. Well, this particular matrix, it starts off with the initiative will read, maybe, they're not quite certain of these numbers, but 6 plants for residential areas.
Within state recommendations.
Right, with 420 and 215 recommendations.
Right.
And then 5 acres or more, 18. And then, I think it's 5 to 20 acres, 48. And then from 20 acres on, 72.
Oh, really? They go that high?
Yeah, they're hitting some.
Are there
Well, I know they're anticipating the commercial value
Right.
of it in the future because we are going to be legalized for recreational and medicinal probably within the next 2 years, according to how
I would say the trend,
country's
yeah.
going. Yeah, the trend is.
was there any zoning restrictions involved in that ordinance?
You know,
Proposed
I
ordinance?
didn't
Well,
really.
it is a zoning ordinance.
It is a zoning
No, I know,
ordinance,
but you know what I mean.
I didn't really, like I said, I didn't have a chance to glean all the way through it, but it did mention something about, like, a fee. I believe it was $50 a plant.
That's for the people who want to grow in a collective environment.
Right, yeah, not for the people that have residential. And
Right.
There's no fees for them.
Right.
But anything over 6 plants, I think you have a fee.
Right.
And then that pays for the administration overlooking everything and having somebody.
Yeah, and it now allows an income stream to pay for enforcement. And then
Right.
enforcement would be handled through a special enforcement team that would be a part of the code enforcement.
Well, you know what? Is there some language to that? But I don't want to go any further because I don't want to misquote.
This is just some of the stuff that I
Yeah.
know they've been mulling around,
Right,
so I'm
right.
figuring it's probably in there right now in the matrix.
Yeah, there's something in there.
But-
They're also taking away that they need to be able to have if there's anybody found in violation, they need to follow through the procedures that don't really have anything to do with leaning your property or taking your property or
Right,
arresting you.
right.
It's just trying to make it not even a misdemeanor. It's just a code violation and moving forward. But
Well,
there
in the
is some-
current one, the misdemeanors actually could be grounds for seizure of your property and
Right,
forfeiture. So
yeah.
that to me is very unfair, that if someone's growing a little plant in their backyard, they could lose their home. I don't think that's appropriate. I don't think the jails need any more criminals in them.
But in all honesty, Terry, I don't
that
think
type of
that's
thing.
really, the issue at hand. I don't believe that really, the bottom line is that I'm really not, I have to really get into the meat of the ordinance that's currently been coming up in June to determine whether or not that it would put somebody in jeopardy for having a plant. I don't think it really goes down that path. It's really designed, I think, to get the big grows and to go after the illegal grows. No
see,
recommendations.
I don't agree with that
I
at
know
all.
you don't, but see,
because if it says 0 plants and you've got plants,
Yeah, but I
then
haven't
you're in
read it
violation.
thoroughly. I
Well,
know.
I have.
Okay.
I'm just
Well, I
telling you what
haven't.
I've read says that if you have 0 plants, then you'll get a first warning from code enforcement. You're not mandatory misdemeanor, but it can lead to a misdemeanor if it's not abated within the certain 5 days you have to respond.
Yeah, I understand
Okay,
that.
so they give you a very short turnaround time, and you're talking about people's medicine. So they're saying 0 plants in those community growth areas. So anyone that's growing their plants, let's say they got 6 plants, according to what the state can say, theoretically, the county can give them a misdemeanor and can take their property. So,
I guess in theory, if the administration wanted to spend
Sure.
the cost and all the money
That's
to
the
go
way
after
it's
some-
written.
yeah, but the likelihood of that is probably.
are you ready to take phone calls?
Is that it?
No, I have a lot more
No,
questions.
but we have a caller.
The callers have
Yeah, but
questions
okay,
too.
well, let's make sure that we can move on to some of the other topics.
We're
I don't
going
want
to
get stuck
No,
in
no,
this
no.
cannabis thing.
I
Okay.
understand.
No, and this is not a discussion about cannabis.
And I
So
brought it
any
up,
other
so I
callers
apologize, yeah.
that want to discuss that issue, I ask them to hold those questions till
Okay.
later. Hello, you're on the air.
That was me. I'm about to make a statement about how we have a autonomous right to self-determination, and if you have within the required amount of land to grow X amount, and you have extra, you're supposed to be able to go to the dispensary like every other county
Right.
in the state.
But this
And
isn't.
that's like they're all spoiled with all the wine money, like a kid having candy under their bed. How they
Okay,
supposed to help appetite?
Thank you, but we're off topic. We want to stay on
Okay,
John
yeah,
Brosnan.
yeah.
Thank you very much. Bye. I got another one. Let me grab it real quick.
Okay.
Hello, you're on the air.
Hi.
Hi, Phil.
I know that John is backing Brian Martin for sheriff.
No,
And,
you don't know that, Phil.
well, I know you gave him $200.
Well, everybody knows that.
Well, that seems to be.
That doesn't mean I'm backing him or supporting him. It means that I contributed to his campaign as I did to Jerry Spitlers and Herb Gura and others. So it's just my way of leveling the playing field.
Well, did you give Frank $200?
Not yet. Frank is an incumbent. Frank has his own party line affiliation. Frank can move forward on his own merits or whatever.
Okay,
he has.
let me just ask you a question here. Do you feel comfortable with Brian's statement that he doesn't feel that any sort of citizens review or oversight board is needed for the sheriff's department, and he apparently is not going to make himself accessible like Frank has by going on the radio every 2 weeks and giving out his personal cell phone number and his email address? Instead, Brian feels that the grand jury is capable of a proper level of oversight of the sheriff's department, in spite of the fact that the grand jury members are appointed by Brian's father. don't you find
Oh,
that
my goodness.
a little troubling?
Well, Phil, you know that I listen to you when you're on the show a lot, and you know that I listen to you when you're in the supervisory's board meetings, and I also am aware of your profound knowledge of what's going on here and your involvement in this community on all levels, and my hat's off to you on that. And your language this morning obviously is humorous, because you know what, this is part of the problem here of a nepotistic good old boy system. Okay, so the idea here is just to not, I guess, point fingers and try to tear people down. It's just to look at what's existing here and say, okay, what part of this aspect of, let's say, in this particular discussion is Brian Martin, I guess, obviously the topic here, and his relationship to his father. What particular aspect of the current situation is beneficial and what particular aspect is not? So just because Frank had his cell phone number on, and just because Frank said he would entertain an advisory committee, an oversight committee, doesn't mean that it actually happened. As far as I know, it didn't happen. And
No, it didn't happen.
Well, no, and it didn't happen, but I don't really honestly see the necessity for it, because, number one, the issues have not arisen like they did under the previous administration.
Correct.
Where there was, incident after incident after incident of documented criminal behavior
Correct.
by the staff of Mr. Mitchell.
Screen
Everything
tests.
from drunk driving to stealing machine gun parts from the sheriff's armory.
How about the screen tests?
But let me comment on that, Phil, if I may. Just in general, having a sheriff run, or any official run here uncontested for 16 years is to me is a red flag. It's a concern, which would indicate that there's some degree of control going on here, or fear. So, one of the things that I noticed, I've traveled all over the world. I've been to places where I would land there, go there, and I'd see officers in military outfits with machine guns, and it would scare the hell out of me. Okay, and I'd feel it inside of me, deep inside. I wouldn't act afraid, but I would go like, "Oh man, this is not good." Well, there was certain things that I came here to Lake County I could feel that wasn't right. There's a certain air here that you won't find in other counties, and it's not because there's police presence, but because there's some sort of there was, at the time that you're talking about, there was a kind of a fear that to stand up and say, hey, wait a minute, we want to be recognized. There was some sort of fear here, and I'm not sure why. And that's kind of why I believe that, I support people to run for office. I'm not at all disappointed that there's 8 or 9 candidates running for supervisor of District 3.
But the problem I'm seeing here is that Brian Martin represents a return to the Mitchell regime. He worked very hard to try to get Mitchell reelected. And you talk about, military climate. Mitchell was the one that acquired 120 assault rifles for the sheriff's office, which is an astounding number considering they only have 64 sworn deputies.
Yeah, see, I don't know about that, Phil. I wasn't here, and I don't have privy to that information, whether it's true or not. But
well, I'm telling you that I know for a fact it is. He also acquired those 2 completely useless M113 armored personnel carriers, which I don't know what the hell's happened to them. They've never been used.
I think they got one I think they got a new one, didn't they?
They got
Well,
a new used
Rivera
one.
got one that actually
Cadillac.
you might be able to use because it's got wheels on it. You could actually drive it somewhere. You don't have to load it on a big rig to take it to the incident site.
Phil, I don't know. I mean, some of this we can find hilarious, right? But the other side of the coin is, I mean, you got to look at the practicality of it. I mean, if you had these two other tanks with tracks and et cetera, and then someone offers them a free one with rubber tires. I mean, I don't know. To me, it sounds like in one way, in one respect, that's probably a better idea than running a tank around with tracks. I don't, how do you answer a question like that? I mean.
Well, it's very simple. None of those 120 assault rifles that Sheriff Mitchell acquired, none of them has ever been fired in the line of duty. And those tanks have never, or the APCs, those have never been used either. Now, maybe this thing that Frank is gotten from Sonoma, maybe that won't be used either, but at least you can make some kind of plausible case for it being practical to use in, some kind of hostage or standoff situation.
Right, and I can say this about your commentary then, Phil, and that's the last thing you said, is that none of these things have been used, and that would be my focus. They have not been used, and that's really the end result here. It's like whether or not they get used and whether or not they're used appropriately in the right situation, it yet remains to be seen. But I would say that if I was a sheriff and I was running this county and I had to deal with a lot of these outlaw grows and these federal lands, and I would want to have some protection too. I wouldn't want to send my men out with single shot, and I'm not really versed on weaponry either. So whatever they need to defend themselves, I think it's good to have. Now, if they abuse that right and use those inappropriately, then we have another issue at hand.
Okay. Phil, let me interrupt you for a second, and let me see if I can reword your comments and your questions here, from my opinion. And these are kind of direct questions. Mm-hmm. Are you First of all, do you believe Mr. Martin will be his own man, or do you think he will follow the rulings that he worked under the Mitchell regime?
I think that Brian will want to be his own man. I think Brian, like the son of any successful father that precedes him, would also want to have some influence of what his father's input. I have a father who's very successful, and I am in the similar business, and I do appreciate following in the footsteps that have been proven to be successful, and I'm sure Brian feels the same way. But I am not endorsing Brian, nor am I endorsing...
That was my next question. You're not endorsing him.
Nor am I endorsing Frank, because I really don't... It's not the time yet for me to come out and make a commitment, but I believe
John,
that.
Wait a minute. You're running for public office.
Yes, I am.
You got to put your cards on the table here so people know what options they're being offered. If you are so indecisive or uninformed that you can't make a decision about basic things like who should be running the sheriff's department, I think you need to, do your homework and then come back when you have these things figured out, instead of saying, well, I'll make my mind up later. Okay. We heard some of the same stuff from, my name's, I'm losing it here.
Breathe, Phil.
Oh, God. The old guy who was on the planning commission, I'm having a brain fart here.
Marvin,
yeah, thank you. Marvin Butler. Hey, I mean, he said the same thing. Well, gee, I haven't made up my mind about the sheriff's race.
I'm not so sure I like you associating me, comparing me to Marvin, but listen, okay, Phil, You alluded to my not having the capacity or the ability to make a decision. That's not what I said. I'm choosing at this moment not to air my decision.
No, I think it's a willingness problem. I mean, you have the capacity, John. I'm sure of that. It's the willingness to put the cards on the table and tell people, hey, look, this is my position.
Okay, well, I can tell you right now, the reason I'm not being fervent on choosing a candidate for sheriff is because I really do like Brian Martin's approach, and I do like what he's representing. But at the same time, I'm also looking at what Frank has done and what he has not done. So it's really, you know what, you'll be hearing from me on my timeline, not yours, Phil, when I'm ready to make this commentary regarding the sheriff. I believe that we need to have a community where sheriffs don't get run for office unopposed, which is what Brian's doing. He's standing up and running against Rivero, and Rivero has the Democratic Party line behind him and endorsing him. So you know what? I'm just watching the game, okay? Because I really.
Well, right now you seem to be on the same side as Rob Brown, because he's another big contributor to Brian's campaign.
What are you trying to say?
Phil, I don't think $200 is a big contributor.
Yeah, I can't
Come
get with you
on.
on that one.
Okay, you got a ways to go, because Rob's kicked in about $3,000 so far.
Right.
Well, I don't see. Like I said, I went to high school too, and part of the problem in high school is that I was welcomed into every group. And I don't want to waste the airtime on this, but every time I got into these groups of people, because basically I like people, Phil, believe it or not, I like people, I like diversity, I like what every group offers. But when they start telling me I got to hate this other group, or I can't look at the good aspects of this one group and be a part of their group, that's when I said, you know what, maybe this isn't for me. I think individuality is important. I think autonomy is important, and I think people have a right, should have a right, and should be encouraged to look at all walks of life, all groups, and then when it comes down to the right time in the right place, make your decision count, and that's usually in the voting booth. But as a candidate for Supervisor District 3, you and other people who are in favor of Rivero, in favor of Martin, and in favor of Chalk have tried to get me to come out and put my endorsement or my support on one of these three people, and I am just not at this moment ready. I've given enough information over the air on Facebook to indicate for any person who's astute, they can see which way I'm leaning, and then they can look into see if they want to lean that way. But I'm not here to lead people down a road for them to not be able to think for themselves.
Well, John, in my experience, I've never seen anyone contribute money to a political campaign and then vote against the candidate that they gave money to.
Well, you would never see that, Phil, because you never know who votes for who. That's why it's called a private voting booth. Okay, you never know, and to think that people are going to tell you the truth all the time about who they vote for is another high school type of mentality.
Okay, well, let us know when you've made a decision, please.
I will definitely.
Thanks. Bye.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you.
Well,
that guy.
Phil's great. I'm sorry, Phil's great. I don't always agree with Phil and everything, but I think he's a great dude. He's extremely well informed.
Yes, he is.
Hell, more than I ever be.
Yeah.
Okay, we have another call.
Okay.
Hello, you're on the air.
Is this seat hot or is it me?
No, it's hot.
You're in the hot seat.
I'm kidding.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
They've militarized the courthouse, where most people are militarizing the police department. For them to say it's for some code violation is militarizing the courthouse. They think they can sick the officery on things and bring them through the courts to revenue generate, and could care less about 215 or the other things. Like I mentioned before, that's what's going on there.
But you're off topic. We're talking with John Brosnan right now, so save that for another conversation, okay? Thank you. Bye. Okay, John, go ahead and get back to there.
Yeah, hey, John.
Oh,
How you feeling, dude?
Yeah, I'm feeling okay.
We're very good. All right, okay. Oh, anyway, okay, easy question for you. Is this a full-time or part-time job?
Oh, it would definitely have to be a full-time job.
And you're going to put up the hours necessary in?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, on that note, and this is my biggest bugaboo with the current admin, and I'm not speaking personally, I'm just talking in general terms, folks, is their lack of availability, a lack of communication returning to myself and or my wife, and now it could be because we're media, not just considered, quote, local citizens. And of course, we're still carpetbaggers from Arizona, so, it's kind of hard for get any respect anyway. But so my question here is, if you plan on doing this as a full-time job, do you have any plans or any ideas or any thoughts about how you're going to keep yourself available to the public and how you're going to go about communicating with the public?
Okay, well, I'm going to run the risk of being honest again.
Well, that's what I want.
All right. Accessibility, or the public having accessibility to their representative, their supervisor of their district, is paramount and is crucial. So I would have an email address, I would have a cell phone, I'd have an office number, I would be available, I'd be in the office when I could be in the office. If I'm out doing the rounds of these appointments with whatever, I got to go places, see things, meet people, obviously I'll have a cell phone. But on the other hand, an elected official we don't have a direct democracy here. We have kind of an electorate democracy, and when you elect an official, you've got to have trust and faith in that official that's going to make decisions that you yourself have already pondered about, and he has aligned himself or she has aligned himself with your decision making and your thoughts, what's good for your community, in this particular case, District 3. So while I would be available, I think it's really honest to tell the people that if an elected official had to take time out for each and every individual and to try to weigh each and every individual factor in, nothing would ever get done. So you have to avail yourself to those people, and this is part of what I'm talking about, of gathering together the unvoiced people, the unrepresented people, to step up, to matriculate into the system, to assimilate into the system, so that their voices can be heard, so they can do things like volunteer, help to do the things. We're going on a volunteer cleanup at the Oaks here on Saturday. Those people that are volunteering on this cleanup are the people that need to also be part of the voice that represents groups. So, for example, if I was elected to be district supervisor for District 3, I would try to promote each hamlet, each township, Upper Lake, Lucerne, Nice, Glen Haven, the Oaks, Bachelor Valley area, all the way down to Double Eagle, down where Herb lives, and Long Valley Road, to get people to represent. So you got a town hall meeting at Upper Lake. They could represent one person from that group, so that when these people, each once a month, they can meet with the supervisor, they can come down to the board meetings, so that when these people walk into a boardroom, they represent that town. And so that really gets the attention of all the other supervisors. When people walk into the boardroom, our boardroom of my district, and they represent Upper Lake, and they represent Lucerne and Nice, and not just a concerned citizen, but they represent a group of people who are already part of a local council, that has more weight and more impact than thousands of people calling on a phone and sending me emails. So I'm encouraging people, especially people who have not been involved, to stand up, be counted, and be involved. No matter where you start, there's no place too low to start. You start. We're going out and picking up garbage on Saturday. So I don't know how much lower you can go. Get down in the gutter, pick up the garbage, put it in the bag, put it in the trailer, take it to the dumps, and then at the end of the day say, what a good job we've done.
Right. So basically you're trying to get the community get more involved in their own local district
Right.
or local area, and then convey their information or their thoughts and opinions then to you as a supervisor.
Right, because a lot of people feel that their vote doesn't count. They feel their voice doesn't count, and I say, no, it counts. It counts way more than you realize. You just don't realize it yet, and it really does count.
Okay. In my observations of the 20-odd months I've been up here in Lake County, and unfortunately in other areas of the country, similar things have happened. It's been very obvious to me that at public meetings of the Board of Supervisors, at the public meetings of city councils, both Lakeport and Clear Lake, that the elected officials sit up on their podiums listening to the public's comment.
Hopefully, listening.
Well, that's
Sometimes.
that's my point, is that they're sitting up there and they're listening, but then they do their own thing. So my question to you is, number one, I realize citizens may not have all of the information to make a prudent decision when they're speaking out there. I mean, I'm just as guilty as anyone else of that. I have my own opinions. I voice my opinion and may not know all the facts that a elected official may have available to them.
Right.
On the other hand, they also have staff. No matter what level of government, they have staff. Paid staff that the citizens pay through their taxes. These people are supposed to be good at their job. They're supposed to have education. They're supposed to have the knowledge and experience. Yet, it appears to me, in my observations, that elected officials don't even pay attention to their own staff recommendations. What do you think about that? And what is your philosophy or your way of doing business, if you're elected, be able to work and understand what staff's recommendations are and their thoughts behind it?
Well, obviously, that the answer to that is yeah, you should. But I mean, give me an example of what you're talking about here, where they're not listening to their staff or their recommendations paid by their administration.
Well,
paid for the.
I don't want to bring it because I can use the lake tax as an example. We spoke to Scott DeLeon, and I'm not trying to put him on the hot seat by any means. I've talked to Anita Grant, right? Grant, without putting her on the hot seat.
Sure.
And they made some recommendations regarding the Measure L that the board said, no. And or, in one instance, they both agreed to present their information to the board, but they were afraid to.
Are you talking about the quarter percent
Yes.
versus the 0.5%?
Right, and other things regarding the actual measure itself. So,
Okay.
and I don't want you asked for an example, so I gave
Okay.
an example, but there's a lot more out there, and you've seen the public meetings. You probably can relate to some of these things. So my question really is, since none of us are experts in everything,
Yeah.
especially me, how are you going to deal with the staff and discuss and really get into their recommendations or their thoughts behind certain instances where the board is requesting information from them?
Well, I mean, if you're asking me, as a supervisor of District 3
Right.
and a member of a 5-member board, would I be inclined to listen to the advice of the staff? Is that what you're asking
Yes.
me? Well, absolutely. I mean, I don't see why not. I mean, that's what the people voted me to do, right? I'm the representative. I'm not the rule maker. I'm the representative. The people make the rules. They do the voting. I'm just simply the guy up there who's supposed to be listening to everything, keep everything fair and impartial, keep the balance, listen to the advice of the staff, listen to the advice of the county council, and then make an informed decision. It's called an informed decision. I'm not supposed to bring my own opinion in. I'm supposed to include my opinion with an informed decision of members of the staff.
Do you think the current board's doing that?
You know, I really honestly can't tell you. I haven't paid attention to whether or not they're doing that.
Right.
You know, I mean, in all honesty.
Fair enough. Okay, I brought up Measure L. Let's talk about Measure L briefly. First of all, are you for or against?
You know, there's another. I got a guy up in the area that I live in says straight up, "I ain't voting for you if you're going to do new taxes. No new tax." You know, and it's
sounds like me.
Everybody, yeah, nobody. I mean, but you know what? I personally don't like to pay taxes, but I pay them. And I personally don't like to pay new taxes, but I have to pay them if they become implemented.
Right.
You know, and the Democrats always say no new taxes, but they're the biggest proponents of taxes.
Of course they are.
And then the Republicans say no new taxes, but they're only talking about themselves. They don't want to pay and everybody else has to pay. So what I'm saying is that with the tax structure we have, can we get done the things we need to get done? Okay, and that's real simple. It doesn't mean that I would sit there and say, okay, no new tax, because obviously money has to come from somewhere. And if we rely on people to voluntarily come up and pay money to help something move forward, then obviously it's not going to work. At least it hasn't worked thus far. So, am I in favor? I would say, you know, and Phil will probably tell me I'm indecisive on this one. But the bottom line is I think, you know, 2.4 million is a little bit much. I think 1.2, you know, a 0.25% tax would have been probably a more saner approach, you know. And so on that measure, I don't know. I probably would. You had to do that.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You know, people want to know.
Yeah. You know what? I believe in this county. I really, really do. I believe in the geography of this county, the geological structure of this county. I believe in I'm going to be I took my first steps in this county on Cobb Mountain and Whispering Pines, and it looks like I'll be taking my last steps here. So I believe in it. And so because of that, and because we can't change it to a 0.25%, I'd have to say that I would vote for it, you know. Because I really want to give this county every opportunity to get that lake clean and to make sure that money is funded and directed to specifically where it's supposed to go.
So you have enough confidence in the measure itself and the utilization of the funds that you think that will help.
Yeah, I
resolve
haven't
some
read
of
the
issues.
specific language. I did browse through it, but you know, if the specific language makes it so that no money can be directed elsewhere other than directly related to the lake, then I think it would be a good ordinance.
All right.
You know?
Okay, we have time for one more phone call, and then we're going to have to call it a day. I got
That
a
goes
couple
by
of
so fast.
Yes, it
announcements
does.
to talk about, too. Hello, you're on the air.
Sorry to double dip, but I just want to know if John was aware of the fact that Vector Control has currently over $2.6 million sitting in the bank that is not earmarked for anything. And under state law, all of that money is available to be used for the quagga and the cyanobacteria issues, because both of them qualify as vectors as described in the California Health and Safety Code.
Okay, thank you, Phil. We got to go.
Thanks, Phil.
All right, bye. Okay, so I thank all the callers and thank you, John, for being here. We really appreciate your time. We have a couple of announcements to let people know about. This Saturday, March 15th at Oddfellows Hall, Hippie Joe Fernandez is sponsoring a barbecue for the Sober Grad Night. It's going to be a tri-tip, and that's going to be happening starting, I believe, at 4 p.m. Mm-hmm. You have something to say about that?
Well, no. I just wanted to also say before we closed that I will be having my own airtime here on KPFZ.
Oh, good. Okay.
And I'll be probably speaking once a week for at least an hour or two.
Cool.
So I encourage the people to listen.
Do you have any idea when yet?
If I can get some help in doing this, we'll start next Monday.
Oh, but you need an engineer? Is that
I
all?
need help. I don't have, like I said, I don't have a campaign manager or team yet.
Right,
so
right.
I'm hoping that people will step up.
So if people want to contact you, where can they reach you at?
501-7157, area code 707.
501.
501-7157, and I welcome anybody's help, and because a campaign can't be won by one man.
Right on. Okay, well, thank you, John. I'm sorry we have to rush out, but we got to get these other announcements in before the end of the day. Also, on more political notes, Jerry Spittler will be having her District 2 Supervisor campaign kickoff on Saturday, also from 2 to 4 p.m. at the Clear Lake American Legion Hall. There'll be coffee and desserts, and if you'd like more information on that, you can call 994-6303. And there's one more event being sponsored by the Democrats. I believe that... let's see what his name is. Jeff Smith and Herb Gurr are going to be speaking to the Lake County Democrats, and I'm looking for the event on that. And is it no? It's the Lake County Democrats.
No, but there's a Green Party one coming up too.
Okay, we don't have any information on that right now. So right now I'm just letting people know with what we got, and that is what we have. And I can't find the actual posting on that, but you can contact Robert Taylor for more information on that event. I know he did create an event because I saw it this morning, but now I can't find it, of course. If you have the information on the Green Party, we can announce that as well.
I think I do here. It's 4 p.m. At the pizza place there. Was it Round Table or whatever?
Round Table,
yeah,
yes.
Round Table Pizza.
And, at 4 p.m. And I think I know I'm going to be there, and I think Jim Steele.
What day is it?
The 16th. This
And
Sunday.
Here's what the other event is. I did find it. Herb Gurr, Jeff Smith are going to be talking about their runs for County Supervisor in District 3 and District 2 for the Lower Lake Community Action Center in Lower Lake. That's at 16745 2nd Street. That's also on Saturday at 11 a.m. So you can have a full day of politics and entertainment and good food, just hopping around the county
Good
here
food,
on
huh?
Saturday. Yeah.
All right. Never refuse good food.
Okay, so that just about does it for us. Let's see, I had another. Did you have anything else you want to say before we go, John?
Not really, just that I could use some help and support, and I appreciate you, Terry and Peter, for letting me come here and share
It's
my
our pleasure.
experience, strength, and hope.
And there's definitely no heater on that seat, by the way.
Well, sure
No,
felt like that.
but it's definitely the hot seat. There's no question about that. So we're going to go out with some music from Little Feat, and this song is called Willin', and what I like about this song is the chorus says about weed, whites, and wine, but I always chase the white to water so that we could talk about Lake County and all the bountifulness of Lake County.
Weed, wine, and water. What a great combination.
All right, you folks have a great week. This is Terry Larson.
And Pete the Tax Guy.
And we're Lake County Magazine, and you can find us on Facebook at Lake County Magazine Radio Show. Thanks a lot, and we'll catch up with you next Wednesday. Peace out.
I've been warped by the rain, driven by the snow. I'm drunk and dirty, don't you know? And I'm still willing. And I was out on the road late at night. I seen my pretty Alice in every headlight. Alice, Dallas, Alice. And I've been from Tucson to Tucumcari, to Hatchapeta, to Tonopah, driven every kind of rig that's ever been made. sand wine, and you show me a sign, I'll be willing to be moving. I've been kicked by the wind, robbed by the sleet, had my head stoved in, but I'm still on my feet, and I'm still feeling. Smuggled some smokes and folks from Mexico, baked by the sun every time I go to Mexico, and I'm still, and I've been from Tucson to Tucumcari, ever been made, driven the back road so I wouldn't get weighed, and if you give me weed, white sand,